It's Sunday, February the 25th, 2024. You're listening to Wes and Shelley Share, episode 25, Winter 2024 Updates and Black History. Shelley, paint a picture for us of where we are and what we are doing and looking at tonight.
Well, we, you would think living in North Carolina, we would have some things figured out already. But dealing with leaves in the front yard is still a journey. So today we got out into the yard and I raked the leaves out of the flower bed. And right now we still have leaves that are kind of under the trees. People around here do that in order to provide mulch. But I wanted to get the leaves off of the grass because it's been so pretty spring. So anyway, we worked in the yard today for a couple hours and it was just lovely. It was enjoyable. The weather was beautiful. So I told Wes I really wanted to sit in the yard and enjoy it. So we brought out our small chimenea and we set up the camping chairs. And so we're in our front yard in front of the chimenea, kind of just watching the neighborhood. It's very peaceful and we live in a quiet neighborhood. And, you know, people walk here and walk their dogs. And so it's a great way to meet our neighbors. And it's a great way to admire the hard work that we did today. So it's a little cool. So we have our blankets, but we're pulled up right up against the fire and it feels lovely and it smells lovely because we found some pinon wood, which is our favorite. We got to watch the moon rise and it's gorgeous. I think it's a new moon, full moon, something moon, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Large, orange. Anyway, so we're just enjoying our yard here in North Carolina in this beautiful spring evening.
All right, so if you haven't happened to have listened to us before, we are empty nesters that moved from the Midwest, from Oklahoma City, about a year and a half ago, and are both school teachers. And we started this podcast as a way to process the empty nest and all of the changes that go with not having your kids living with you anymore, because we still have one in college, but we've got two out of college and one married, and we are sort of in the time between empty nest, no grandkids, and hopefully someday grandkids, although we are not rushing anybody with that. No. And so anyway, we are going to reflect today, as we usually do, on a couple different things. And the first half, we're just going to talk a little bit about some of our updates. We just got back from a lovely trip to the Friends Farm up in Virginia. A little about healing. We heard from the general, who is the dean of the Air Force Academy yesterday, and that really caused us to think about a lot. And, you know, and maybe the value of road trips, because it was actually just great to have a trip together. And so that's our plan for the first half. And then we have really been on a journey with respect to our faith and learning about a lot of things, and especially about Black history and about racism, racial healing. We've been to two conferences, one at the end of January and one at the beginning of February, a racial healing conference at our church, and then a confronting whiteness class sponsored by Myers Park Baptist Church. Anyway, we're going to talk about that and reflect about that, but we'll do that after halftime. And I know that everyone's excited for halftime. So, Shelley, tell us a little bit about the farm and the trip to Virginia. Why is that always a welcome and really lovely experience when we get to do that?
Well, I think on one of the episodes, surely we have talked about the farm. We've had several. So it's whenever we have a long weekend, and this happened to be a 4-day weekend, although we had some errands we needed to run on one of those days. But we had a 3-day weekend, long weekend, and decided to go up to the farm. It's early spring. It's just now beginning to see the signs of spring here in Charlotte. So in Virginia, they're a little bit behind us. So it actually snowed. And so not deep, but, you know, there was still evidence of snowfall. They're in the Shenandoah Valley, kind of near Percival. And the farm is they're still doing some business. They provide a living wage to people with neurodiverse and physical disabilities. And so the farm runs year round with their baked goods. They have an aquaponics new barn, and so their growing season is year round now. So they're not doing a farmer's market for the winter, but work continues. There's always work to do on the farm. And so, but we enjoy going up there for our long weekends just to kind of get away and help out when we can. We love our road trips, the conversations that we get to have, the dreaming that we get to do. We always take the back roads when possible. This time we actually took a really long way up. It was almost 2 hours longer, but it was so beautiful. Driving through the back roads of Virginia and just, and in North Carolina, yes, and experiencing the rural life out there. So, and especially in this early spring stage. So that was wonderful as well. So life on the farm continues, and it's beautiful. Oh, what I loved about seeing the farm at this time of year, usually at the farm, the grass is really tall and there are a lot of bugs, and but they had just had snow, and you could see from the house all the way down to the river. And this river eventually feeds into the Shenandoah River, and it was higher than I'd ever seen it. They have had quite a bit of rain, which is good. They had been in kind of a drought period, and we're always needing rain at the farm. So, but it was so nice to see the no trees, leaves. Okay, so sorry. Let me restate that. No leaves on the trees. The grass had kind of been down. I mean, you can still wide open spaces. You could see a lot more of the farm when it's not a growing season, and tall grasses and things. So I think I really enjoyed that. My walks next to the river, it was fun to see that from a different viewpoint. So what about you? What did you enjoy about the farm and the ride and that 3-day weekend trip?
Well, one thing that's always interesting, our friends are Catholic, and they attend a very unique Catholic Mass service on Sundays, and we accompany them at a monastery that is literally right on the Shenandoah River. And these are the Conaways. They are the parents of one of my academy classmates, Vern. And I have a special relationship with them because when I lived in Mexico City for a year after I graduated from college, I actually lived with them for like 4 months or something like that, and then ended up taking their son Tomas, who's now in his 30s, but when he was like 3 years old or something, to preschool. Anyway, Vern Sr. works at the monastery, and it just is a very interesting insight into monastic life. They listen. We'll put, I think it's called Trappists of Virginia. We'll put a link in the show notes to their website. They live stream not only their Mass on Sunday, but also they have daily prayer, like I want to say 5 times a day, and they get up at like 3:30 in the morning. I don't know that there's one that early, but like the 6:30 a.m. or something like that, prayer time, and they chant and they pray. And so anyway, the Conaways, will tune into that as part of their routine in the mornings. So, I enjoy that. It really gives me an opportunity to reflect a lot on faith. I always enjoy opportunities to visit other churches and different traditions. I know that when we were in Oklahoma sometimes and we would end up doing that, people at our church at the time would, "Oh my gosh, are you leaving? And what are you doing?" And no, we're visiting another church. It's okay. They were curious, yeah. And we grew up in the Presbyterian tradition and the Reformed tradition, and so, this was fascinating. The Conaways, speak Spanish, and the current Pope is from Latin America. I think he might be from Argentina, and one of the things that he had proposed was changing the words of the Our Father, because in English, we say this too in our Protestant tradition. We pray to God in the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation. Well, in Spanish, that is different, and it is something like no les permite se cayó, or something like that, which is like, don't permit us to fall. And theologically, that's different. And instead of saying, oh, God led me into temptation. Anyway, that was just a very small aside, but I love that. Like, I love the opportunity to learn a little bit more about their traditions. They have a beautiful family tradition of having a prayer wall. And so they have, I don't know if it's made of felt, but it's a cross on one of the walls of their kitchen. And then they have slips of paper that have different people's names on it. In fact, my mother, who passed away a year ago, Christmas Eve, is still up there. But it is a reminder that they have for the folks they are praying for. And I love how Tom usually leads the family in prayer before their meals together. And boy, they work hard. It is just, it's a wonderful thing to be able to go there. And it is kind of like a retreat. And like this last summer, and I think we'll try to do this again, probably in July. We need to email them, actually, because we were hoping to be able to go earlier in the summer, and that's not going to work out because of another commitment. But I don't think I want to have my own farm. So it's an appreciation for that. But it is wonderful to connect. And it really, Shelley's lost both her parents. We've lost my mother now. We miss our parents and the connections that we have through family. And so it really is absolutely lovely to, feel a part of their family, and both to take the road trip together and then to, just be able to spend time hanging out together, with another family, breaking bread, eating around the table. There's few things that bring us together and bind us more than sharing meals. And we're very, very thankful and fortunate that we only live, I guess if we took interstate, 5 or 6 hours away. And that was great. Let's talk about this last weekend. We heard from the dean at the Air Force Academy. You want to tell a little bit about how that came to be and some of the things that she said and we have been thinking about ever since?
Well, being the mother of a Air Force Academy freshman, which they call doolies, so I am involved in several Facebook groups. So the North Carolina Parents Association for the Academy has three?
They have two, Eastern and West.
Two, Eastern and the Piedmont. So anyway, parent groups. And I just happened to be in both of them because I just keep track of things like that. So I saw on Facebook that she was coming to speak at Duke Law School, but she was also going to meet with a group of parents. She likes to meet with parent groups as often as she can. And so there were about 25 of us there who signed up and met in the lobby of the hotel. But just for a conversation, she spoke a little bit about kind of philosophy of she's the dean of faculty at the Air Force Academy. So she talked a little bit about some of the, ways that the faculty are changing and the things that they're doing differently than they used to do. And it was really wonderful. She is not only a one-star general, she also is a judge advocate. She is a JAG officer, and so has done a lot of work with military court cases. And anyway, she's fascinating. She also has a firstie, which is a senior at the Air Force Academy who just received the only Rhodes Scholar that the Academy received this year. And so her daughter will be going to Oxford to spend 2 years working on a degree, a master's program there before she goes to UPT training. She was also going to be a pilot. So Wes can tell you more of the details about what the dean said. But we really enjoyed the drive to Durham, Raleigh-Durham area. I'd never been on the Duke campus before, and it's absolutely lovely. By the way, I told Grace and Alexander if they ever wanted to receive their degree from Duke, that would be a really nice place to go to do master's or doctoral programs. And we were really impressed with their food court. They had the most amazing food court. It was their graduate campus, I suppose. No, I think it was on the graduate side.
I don't think so. I think that was their student union. That was for everybody, for the campus.
No, I don't think so, because
the freshmen had their own, but that was everybody else.
Yes. Well, whatever. It was amazing. And we met, there's a teacher at Providence Day where we're a teacher whose son is also in his freshman year. And so we met them at this event and had lunch with them afterwards. It was a lovely visit as well. So, we really enjoyed that time. So, Wes, tell us a little bit about what the dean said and some of the state of the Air Force now.
So, the dean of the Air Force Academy is Brigadier General Lynelle Latendra, Letendra, Latendra. And she is a class of 1996 Academy graduate. And so I am 92. So she arrived the year after I graduated, I think, because the class of 95 would have been freshmen when we were seniors. And so anyway, that's also interesting. You know, I have a few classmates. I didn't go to my 30th, but we went to my 10th reunion together and the 20th. You know, it is really, maybe we'll talk a little bit about this, but it's been quite a journey with respect to lots of feelings about the Air Force and, you know, it's my relationship and involvement with it. And anyway, there's a lot there. But there, in addition to many updates about the programs and the majors, and I have this pinned on my Facebook page now, but I'll put a link to this post where I kind of, you know, gave a little bit of a summary. The biggest thing that she mentioned regarded international politics and warfare. And one of the parents asked about, you know, given the state of the world now, where does she see us headed and what's in store for our graduate soon-to-be officers? And, you know, there was this was the only moment where, you know, you could really sense her emotion as she was talking about her own daughter as a senior. She didn't actually mention the Rhodes Scholarship and all that during her formal remarks. That was later as we were talking, and I was asking her, you know, about where her daughter was headed and learned about that. But she said that, you know, we're headed for a peer-to-peer super war against China. I mean, we've gotten it wrong before as a country and as a military as far as who the enemy is, but the number one enemy that is gearing up for war against us and that we are preparing for is China. And so, you know, when the parent talked about feeling scared, she said, I think you're right to be scared. I think that it is scary. But I think that we're in the best hands we could with these kids. And she talked about, you know, training warfighter scholars and the ways in which the core curriculum and being a well-rounded person to be able to solve problems and think flexibly and be a good leader, all of these things are hedges against the uncertainty of the future. But I have done some reflecting since. I think I'm going to do a video. I started another a video channel, another YouTube channel called Communitarian Prepper. Not because I, you know, want to be this tinfoil hat, you know, conspiracy theorist, quite the contrary. But I think that it really is important to prepare for emergencies. And, you know, if you have a sense of things that are going to happen and come down the road, hey, maybe retirement someday, you know, whether it's an emergency or it's just part of life, it's good to prepare. And so, you know, we don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to happen. Hopefully, the United States and our allies will be able to deter that kind of an attack. But as she said, we haven't had a peer-to-peer conflict, like outright military to military, since World War II. You know, everything else has been proxy wars and, you know, it's been a very violent, 6 decades, you know, since the end of World War II. But it's a different world, and it really was sobering. And to be in that room with all those parents, all thinking about our kids and the commitment that they've made to serve the country and to serve the nation and to respond to our nation's call, it was, I wasn't really expecting that. And that really gave me a lot of pause. You want to talk about that at all?
I'm done.
You're good. Okay. All right. So we've talked for 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. Let's see if there's anything else we wanted to talk about in this little first half. Got to flip over on Shelly's phone here. I think we've pretty much kind of covered it. I'll just say that I'm feeling pretty healed. Do you want to say anything about that? Nope. Okay. We're not talking about that.
Well, we could talk about that.
Well, do you want to say anything about that? Or
about healing?
Yeah. No. Okay. That's all right. Okay. Well, hey, let's go to halftime, and then we're going to talk about the journey we've been on with Black history and with all the things we've been learning with classes and conferences. So let's go to halftime.
Hey there, North Carolina. Are you ready to experience a funnel cake revolution? It's time to meet Friar's Funnel Cakes, where tradition meets taste and deliciousness is just a bite away.
Created by two passionate school teachers, Friar's Funnel Cakes isn't just about satisfying your sweet tooth. It's a story of family, dedication, and a sprinkle of teachers' love in every bite.
Imagine a warm golden funnel cake dusted with the perfect amount of powdered sugar. And wait for it, you get to drizzle as much or as little chocolate syrup as your heart desires.
Got an event? Want to bring some joy to your gathering? Friar's Funnel Cakes is ready to hit the road and bring our sizzling sweet sensations to you.
Don't just take our word for it. Here's what one of our satisfied customers had to say.
Well, I thought I'd had a good funnel cake, but, when I had one of them Friar's Funnel Cakes, it just set a new standard in taste and excellence. It's a game changer for sure.
So, what are you waiting for, Matthews? Head over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Friar's Funnel Cakes, and let's make your next event a deliciously memorable one.
And we're back. What are we sharing our funnel cake business? Which, by the way, we are excited at the conference. When we were in Durham, we met another couple whose son is a freshman at the academy, and they sell kettle corn at different festivals, and so they're going to share some of the festivals that they're going to. So Wes and I are still looking forward to doing some festivals, and it was great to make another contact in that little business. Well, one of the things that I have really enjoyed about living in the South is getting to know more about our Black history. And it's different but same. I've learned a lot of new things about our history living in the South, which, I would say that growing up in Lubbock, Texas, and the Panhandle, and then growing up in Indian Land in Oklahoma, we did have an opportunity to experience Black history. When I was teaching at Positive Tomorrows, I did a pretty in-depth Black history during February, but really year-round, making sure, because I really feel strongly about this as an educator, especially an educator of young children, is I love literature, and I've heard many stories from most recently astronauts who never saw themselves reflected in the literature or the movies or the TV shows of the time, and then how pivotal it was when they heard from or saw an astronaut, a musician, a dancer, an actress who inspired them to become more and looked like them. And so I have always been very aware of trying to have books in my classroom that reflected the students who and the diversity that was within the classroom, and having opportunities for students to share, whether it's a different religious belief or a different, just differences, in the classroom. And so living here in the South now and learning a bit more about and seeing more of that has been a journey that Wes and I have been on. We go to a church, Caldwell Presbyterian, and it is in Uptown Charlotte, which is kind of their downtown area. It's a very diverse church in many ways, and it's a church that really cares about educating ourselves and doing better in a multitude of ways. And so, it's radically welcoming. And so Wes and I have been in a Sunday school class, and we have an ARC, which is Anti-Racist Community.
Council. Sorry.
ARC, which is the Anti-Racist Council, that, provides a lot of opportunities for us to learn about each other and about the different things that are going on. And so Wes and I have been able to read some books and be in some classes and attend some conferences that are helping us with that. So right now we're doing a Lenten study, which is, what's the name of the book? Anyway, so a book that is talking about slavery, and so that's kind of been our Lent for these last 40 days. Each day we're learning more, and then learning the scriptures.
Lent of Liberation.
Yeah, the Lent of Liberation, and it's a Bible study that kind of focuses on and teaching, the correlation between our 400 years of slavery in America, and how that relates to us now as Christians. It's been very interesting and very enlightening, and it's been absolutely wonderful to learn with a group of people who are very diverse. And today we heard from one of our leaders, Felicia, just share from all of the study that she's done. And we really enjoyed it. And I would say that has been something in this empty nest time period where Wes and I have been able to really dig in and dive in deep into some areas of learning. And when you come to a new area, I think that's really important, but that's been kind of our journey here. And there's so much history. And, we have a slave cemetery across the street from our school that was an Eagle Scout project. So is it Covenant? What Presbyterian church is that? Sardis Presbyterian Church. A lot of churches around here have cemeteries next to their graveyards next to their building, and this Eagle Scout had been a member of the Boy Scout troop there, and they had always talked about how there was a slave cemetery. Well, he got interested, so his Eagle Scout project was to discover that, and they went in with ground penetrating radar and actually identified, and so our school, where the bodies are, and unmarked graves. There were over 80 slaves that were buried there as a part of this very large plantation. And usually around here, they were tobacco plantations as well as cotton plantations. And so, just having that living history here and has been absolutely fascinating. And I love being at a school that is interested in learning about this history and talking about it. So anyway, I did I taught Sunday school this morning. We take turns and had an opportunity to do a Black history lesson. And I really love being in a place where we can do that and talk about it and learn from that. And, as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. Yeah, the book that I did with the students this morning was An American Story. It's written by Kwame Alexander. We'll add that into the show notes. We just finished one of his books, The Crossover, which is very popular read with 4th and 5th grade, especially boys, because it's about basketball. But he told a story about his daughter and going to a parent-teacher conference. And when he asked about what they were doing for Black history, the teacher became really defensive, because I think a lot of times as teachers, we're not really prepared for this, especially now. There's some very difficult times right now in talking about that. But I just feel very fortunate that we are going to a church that's really open to learning. And like I was going to say, Dr. Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. And that's our goal, is to know better and to learn more and to listen and discern. So Wes, tell us a little about some of the classes that we've taken and this journey that we've done together during our empty nest time.
And I'm going to ask you about takeaways from the Racial Healing or from the Confronting Whiteness conference. Yeah. So last fall, because of Kimbo, one of our church members, we learned about a 9-week course that is called Confronting Whiteness. You can just Google Confronting Whiteness. This is a program that actually started in response to the murder of George Floyd. And it started at Myers Park Baptist Church, which is an affirming and inclusive Baptist congregation in Uptown Charlotte, but is a predominantly white congregation. And what Ben, the pastor and founder of this program, realized was that his congregation was highly politically polarized and had a very difficult time intersecting with the issues that were being raised in the Black Lives Matter movement and protests. And it was just really, really difficult to figure out how to move forward. And so what he came up with was a course which is facilitated online. So no matter where you are in space, you can do this via Zoom. And there are so many readings and videos and documentaries to watch. There is really an overwhelming amount of content. There's a book, a participant's guide that goes with it. But then each week there are required suggested readings and movies and videos to watch. And I only did a small portion of them. But when you get together live each week, it's really about responding, and everyone has an opportunity. The facilitator doesn't present much in the way of, there's no lecture, but there's prayer, there's, sort of community norms that are shared as far as listening and using I, speaking for yourself. If you disagree, trying to talk about the issues and not personalize things. Anyway, it was just absolutely wonderful and unlike any course that we've ever taken. I mean, we've never taken a class like that before. And so that organization has an annual conference, and we were able to attend that conference the first weekend of February. Now, as a result of this work and then an inquiry project that I've been doing since 2019, which I call Conspiracies and Culture Wars, which is related to my professional work in media literacy, I have decided, and I've roped Shelley in as I often do, to launch a project called Heal Our Culture. And so you can go to healourculture.org. Last year, I just started to really assemble a bunch of resources that we were finding relating to not only racial healing, but a variety of different kinds of healing that we feel like our culture needs to do. And these are things that aren't going to be solved and done in the next month or year or maybe even decade. I mean, these are big, big challenges. But I feel like we're called to them. And so anyway, we did record a podcast for that channel and set up a new podcast for Heal Our Culture. And I'll include that in the show notes as well, and would encourage you to check that out. So we reflected really just about the Racial Healing Conference in that podcast. I have loved being able to be a part of the first gospel choir at our school. And this came about because David Harris, a friend of mine from Chicago who teaches 8th grade history and is one of our EIB leaders, which is what we call DEI. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We call that at our school equity, inclusion, and belonging. But we have 3 full-time staff members for the entire school for EIB, and then each division, of which we have 3, and I'm in the middle division for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we have representatives, and they help organize assemblies. We have book studies that we do in the summer, a variety of different kinds of activities to support students, but also to support faculty. And so David was talking to Ariane Hood, who is she's our elementary music teacher. And they said, hey, do you think we could do this? And lo and behold, we were able to do it. And we started practicing in November. We sang for the middle school, for the Martin Luther King holiday. We also got to sing for the lower school faculty meeting. We just sang this last week at the upper school for Black History Month. We were going to sing for the board like next week or what, but I think that's been moved to May. But anyway, I am the only white male in the group. We have, more than twice as many women as men in the group. It is very powerful. It is so powerful, like powerful in an emotional way. And so I've not ever sung in a gospel choir before, and it's a little bit different in terms of like no sheet music and really a lot of singing by ear and picking up. And I'm a tenor, and I tend to sing mostly that way anyway, where I'm good to, stand next to somebody who's strong and I can match what they're singing. But anyway, that has been an element and a piece of this as well. And so this is such an important journey. And I feel like we're in a unique place, not only, and I don't want to portray our school as like this dreamland. Every school has like challenges. I love the work that I'm getting to do at school and some of the friends that I've made, and there's just some wonderful, wonderful things. But I don't want to, paint a false Pollyannish like, oh my gosh, it's just perfect. Every school has challenges. But, we did not have the same focus on equity, inclusion, and belonging, and on Black history, and, racial and gender inclusion and ethnic inclusion. We didn't have that kind of focus at schools that I have attended and taught for in the past. And so that, combined with just where we are in North Carolina, others that are focused on these issues, like those involved with the Confronting Whiteness, and then, like Shelley said, with our church. It really is a wonderful confluence. And, it's easy to get depressed reading the news and seeing what's happening, politically in our country on a lot of different fronts. There was some really tragic news that just happened in Oklahoma with a high school student just, I think, 2 weeks ago. And we just need to be building community, loving each other, seeking to be good humans, and fully respect the rights of every human being, and let every person show up and tell us who they are and respect them for who they tell us they are. And part of the work that we're certainly called is just listening and learning. So we went to this Confronting Whiteness conference almost a month ago now. It was at the beginning of February. And I know, Shelley, we reflected a lot about the Racial Healing Conference. Any thoughts that you have about the Confronting Whiteness conference, that experience, any takeaways, any way in which that's affected you in this journey that we're on together?
Yeah, what I really, a lot of what I do, I always see through the lens of a teacher. And, I think at every school I've taught at, there's always been, I guess, othering, where, words are used that are hurtful, bullying happens, and it's a sensitive area for kids, and our job and our role as teachers is to teach them to be kind and to use kind words. I'm a firm believer in having vocabulary, especially to talk about difficult issues. So what I appreciated at the conference, there was a book author there, and she's in a biracial family. She is Black, her husband is white, and they have children. And she's written a book called Hues, and it gives vocabulary for why different children have different colored skin, why different people have different colored skin, and talks about the melanin in the skin and how where that comes from and what that is, and how it's different in different people based on your backgrounds and your genetics and what part of the world you're from, and I think it's a really healthy way to introduce children to their differences in a way, and give them the vocabulary to talk about that, and to get away from just noticing the color of someone's skin. Anyway, I really, for me, that was my biggest takeaway. Also, I just love learning with a diverse group of people. It's unfortunate that I have spent most of my life in segregated groups, whether it's a segregated church or a segregated school, and so it is really wonderful to be in a diverse group of people where people feel comfortable to talk to each other and to listen to each other and to learn from each other. And I am really appreciating that opportunity to do that. I am appreciative of a city here in Charlotte that has museums and things. Wes and I have the Gantt Museum, and have been able to attend some museum talks, and the Lean of the New South Museum, and attend some of their talks. And again, going back to our empty nest, whereas we used to spend a lot of our time going to sports games or school activities, we are now having the opportunity to go to museums and go to classes and hear talks and learn from history. And those a lot of times are our date nights. And we have a date night. Last night, we had the opportunity, thanks to some tickets from school, to hear, to see a play about Martin Luther King Jr. and then last night that he spent before being killed and assassinated. It was called The Mountaintop. Anyway, so we are feeling very cultural and very appreciative about being able to learn about our culture.
I do think that Confronting Whiteness conference was the most diverse event we have ever attended. I guess maybe outside a sports event. I don't know. Yeah, sports events are diverse places as well. But yeah, it's been good. And so we want to share the links and resources to these books and authors and organizations. As I said, last year, I actually started compiling resources for the Heal Our Culture project. And so if you go to healourculture.org and click the link for resources, or just go to resources.healourculture.org, that is a Google site, which just has one page so far. But it has a whole list of different resources relating to cultural healing, and racial healing is a significant part of that, not the only part of that. But I look forward to just continuing on this journey, because one of the things that we continue to do as followers of Jesus and people of faith is seek to discern, what is it that God wants us to do? what is it that we are called to do? Who are we and whose are we, to quote our sermon from today? And we know those answers, but yet we are changing in our identities and in our roles and in the things that we do. And that's part of why we started this podcast, was to be able to share that out, because I have certainly experienced the value of podcasts and reflecting and sharing and connecting with others since I started my podcast back in 2005 and moving at the speed of creativity. And I discern, I think we discern together, that sharing this journey is a really important part of what we believe we are called to do, because we know we are not called to this work alone. We are called with others. So just one last question, Shelley, and then we'll sign off. What are you looking forward to for spring break? And as you look forward to March and just a few more months, it'll be summertime. What are you looking forward to? You've been thinking about our kids a little bit, I think.
Yes, I've been missing our children. So I'm looking forward to our PD. Pop's Day spring break is a little early. So we are going to be traveling to see Wes's father in Manhattan, Kansas, and Sarah's going to drive up from Oklahoma City. And so I'm really looking forward to spending time there and with Wildcat and seeing Sarah, and just a special time. We love Manhattan. We haven't been in a while, and it'll be fun to go back there. And then Rachel will be coming here for her spring break, and so I'm looking forward to spending time with her. It'll be after her recognition, so I'm sure she'll want to sleep and rest and kind of just yeah. So anyway, but it'll just be nice to have her home and to be able to spend time with her. That's the week before Easter, I believe. And so looking forward to that. We had a great conversation with Alexander and Grace tonight, and looking forward to spending some time with them this summer and hearing all about Grace's new job. And I'm just so proud of all three of them. And I've been missing them, but all the children are doing well, and I'm looking forward to opportunities to get to spend some time with them. So what about you?
Oh, well, ditto for sure. So I'm actually also looking forward in 2 weeks to presenting at our State Educational Technology Conference, NC TIES, that's up in Raleigh. And I think Shelley's going to get to go. I haven't presented at a conference like that in a long time, so I feel like I'm a bear who's been hibernating in my cave for a long time. And I think I have maybe 4 sessions, something like that, three presentations and a poster session or something, and that's gonna really be fun. But definitely looking forward to seeing the kids and the spring, because hey, we walked around today. It was up in the mid-50s, and we're seeing daffodils, and we're looking forward to getting back to the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Blue Ridge Parkway and some outdoor adventures. And so that is going to be exciting. Hopefully we can record some episodes on the road, in some fun places in the next couple months. So we want to encourage you to, of course, subscribe to our podcast. You can find all the links to subscribe on different platforms by visiting shelleyfryer.com/podcast, and reach out to us. Let us know. Follow us on Facebook. That's probably the main way I think people are probably connecting, is through our Facebook page. So if you don't already, you can find Wes and Shelley Share on Facebook, and let us know there or another way that you're listening. And if you have any questions or feedback or thoughts, we would love to hear them, especially if you have any thoughts about some of these issues and whatever. I mean, we're on the journey. It's the empty nest, and we're making it. I think so. Shelley, what do we encourage people to do? To go outside,
have adventures,
and stay curious.
Yeah,
something like that. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Wes and Shelley Share is a weekly podcast recorded and published on Sundays by Wesley and Shelley Fryer of Matthews, North Carolina. Learn more and find links to connect on social media to Wes and Shelley by visiting shelleyfryer.com/podcast. Content on this podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Only 3.0 license. The Wes and Shelley Share podcast is recorded and published with Anchor and distributed on all major podcast channels, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and more. Please share our show on social media and tell others about us. Let us know on Facebook or via other means what you like about the show, that you're listening, and if you have any suggestions for future episodes. Stay curious, go outside, and keep exploring.